You're lying in bed right now, phone in hand. It's 1 a.m. You've been about to sleep for 2 hours. Your ancestors would be absolutely horrified, not because of the phone, but because the second that sun went down, they had exactly 0 options. No lights, no screen, no street lamps, nothing. You couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. And if you wandered away from the fire to, say, check on something in the dark, congratulations, you're a leopard's dinner. For 300,000 years, every single human who ever lived spent roughly half their life in near total darkness. And yet, somehow, they didn't just sit there waiting to die. They built culture. They invented storytelling. They figured out sleep in a way that was honestly kind of genius, and that we completely destroyed without even realizing it. So, what did they actually do at night? Let's start with the one thing that made any of this possible: fire. The earliest solid proof of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, roughly 1 million years ago. 1 million, that's so long ago. The humans using that fire weren't even fully modern Homo sapiens yet. But here's the thing, fire wasn't just about warmth. Fire was basically the invention of the evening. Before fire, your ancestors were just like every other primate. When the sun went down, you found a tree. You climbed it, you shut up, and you hoped nothing with night vision found you. Because something almost certainly would. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, all of them could see perfectly fine in the dark. You were basically stumbling around blind, making noise, smelling delicious. Fire flipped the whole game. A campfire creates a circle of safety about 30 feet wide. Inside that circle, warm, alive, maybe a little smoky. Outside that circle, instant wildlife documentary. And you are not the narrator. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups today, people who still live close to the original human lifestyle, have documented that people who wander away from the fire at night are significantly more likely to be killed by predators. Still, today, in the 20th century, so for ancient humans with 0 fences and 0 flashlights, that campfire wasn't a vibe, it was survival. But here's the part that blew scientists' minds. Fire didn't just protect people, it gave them something nobody had ever had before: extra time. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset. That's maybe 12 hours in summer, as few as 8 in winter. Fire suddenly unlocked 2 to 4 bonus hours every single night. And over thousands of generations, those extra hours changed what it means to be human. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She spent years recording conversations among the Jew Homsi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa, one of the last groups on Earth still living something close to the original human lifestyle. What she found was one of the most quietly mind-blowing things in modern anthropology. During the day, about 80% of conversations were purely practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ripe? Economic negotiations, complaints about Kevin who keeps eating more than his share. Basically, meetings. All day, just meetings. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. 81% of nighttime conversations were stories. Myths about the origins of the world, tales of people in distant places nobody at the fire had ever visited. Jokes that made the whole camp lose it laughing. Gossip, dreams, imaginary scenarios, the full human experience. Wiesner argued that firelight conversation is where human culture was actually born. The campfire was the original theater, the original classroom, the original podcast. It's where humans learn to think beyond right now and imagine things that don't even exist yet. It's where abstract thinking, art, religion, morality, identity first caught fire. Literally. You know that feeling when you're up late with friends and the conversation gets real, deeper than usual? No agenda, no plans, just talking? That feeling is 300,000 years old. You're not being unproductive. You're doing exactly what your brain was built to do. Now here's where it gets weird. Because it turns out, the stories weren't the only thing happening at night. Something else was going on. Something that scientists only figured out in the last 30 years. And that historians had been misreading for centuries without realizing it. You were not designed to sleep the way you're sleeping right now. In 2001, historian Roger Eckerch published a paper that genuinely broke sleep science. He had spent 16 years digging through historical records from all over the world. Prayer books from the 1400s, court records, diaries, medical texts, love letters, random documents from ordinary people across centuries. And buried in all of it, he found the same strange phrase, over and over, in hundreds of documents: first sleep and second sleep. Before the industrial age, people didn't sleep in one long uninterrupted block. They went to bed shortly after sunset, slept about 4 hours, then woke up, stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the night, and then went back to sleep for another 4 hours until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. This wasn't a sleep disorder. This was just Tuesday for every human on the planet for thousands of years. And what did people do during that middle of the night window? Honestly, kind of everything. A 16th century French physician recommended it as the ideal time for couples to conceive children, because they'd be better at it, apparently well rested and relaxed, in a way they never were during the day. People visited neighbors, they lay in bed and interpreted their dreams while still fresh. They wrote, they thought. A doctor's manual from the 1500s literally advised patients that the best time to study and reflect was during the watch, the quiet hours between first and second sleep, when the mind was calm and the world was completely still. Here's the wild part. Historians had been reading these references for centuries and not understanding them, because they couldn't imagine people ever sleeping differently than we do now. The assumption was so deep that translators literally mistranslated ancient Greek and medieval Latin to fit modern sleeping patterns. They thought first sleep was just a poetic way of saying sleep. It wasn't. Then, science confirmed what history had been quietly saying the whole time. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Weir at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment. He took volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. For 1 month, they experienced 14 hours of darkness every night, same as our ancestors before fire extended the evening. Within weeks, every single participant settled into the exact same pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do this. Nobody suggested it. Their bodies just remembered. But here's the part that really gets you. Weir measured hormone levels during that waking window, and what he found was strange. The participants were in a state unlike any normal waking state. Their brains were producing elevated levels of prolactin, the same hormone released during deep meditation and after sex. They described feeling peaceful, floaty, reflective, not anxious, not tired, just calm in a way they almost never were during daytime. It wasn't just a gap in sleep, it was its own distinct state of consciousness, a whole category of human experience, quiet, meditative, almost dreaming while awake, that most modern humans have never experienced even once in their lives. So what killed it? Light. In the 1600s, cities started installing street lamps. Paris was one of the first, under Louis XIV, who wanted to reduce nighttime crime. London followed. The night, which had always been a place of danger, fear, and darkness, slowly became navigable. Then cheaper candles. Then gas lamps in the 1800s. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. And within a single generation, the night as humans had known it for 300,000 years was simply gone. Fun side note, the word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu. It literally means cover fire. In medieval towns, a bell would ring at night, signaling everyone to cover or extinguish their fires, not just for fire safety, but because night was supposed to be dark. In many medieval European cities, walking outside after dark without a lantern wasn't just suspicious, it was literally illegal. Night belonged to criminals, and everyone believed to the supernatural. People feared darkness in a way we genuinely cannot understand today. And then, we conquered it. We flooded it with light. We called it progress. Here's what we actually lost. Modern humans are exposed to artificial light, an average of 7 to 8 hours after sunset. The blue light from your phone, yes, specifically your phone, suppresses your body's melatonin production. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a light bulb and the sun. When bright light hits your retina at 11 p.m., your brain goes, "Oh, it's noon. Excellent, no need to sleep." It delays melatonin. It fragments your sleep architecture. It disrupts a circadian rhythm that took millions of years to evolve. Researchers found that people who go camping for just 1 week, no artificial light at all, reset their melatonin cycles by nearly 2 hours. Their bodies start producing melatonin at sunset instead of hours after it. 1 week, that's all it takes for 300,000 years of ancient programming to reassert itself. And that quiet meditative state between first and second sleep, the one VAERS subjects described as peaceful and profound, that doesn't exist for most modern people anymore. Instead, we have insomnia. We wake up at 2 a.m. and we panic. We check our phones. We take melatonin supplements made from, melatonin that our bodies would have produced naturally if we just turned the lights off. But what if waking up at 2 a.m. isn't your body malfunctioning? What if it's your body remembering what it was built to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent their nights in a rhythm that modern science is only starting to understand. They gathered around fires and told stories that built civilizations. They slept in 2 phases with a quiet window of reflection in between. They lived in darkness so complete that the Milky Way wasn't something you had to plan a road trip to see. It was just the sky. Every night, just the sky. And every night, when they woke in the dark between first and second sleep, they lay there in the quiet and thought about their lives, their dreams, the world they'd wake up to in the morning. We traded all of that for a light switch, and most of us never even knew it was gone. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to flip a switch. Light will flood the room, and you won't think twice about it. Maybe you should.